everyone, welcome back to the Tiny Human Handbook. My name's Ellen and today I'll be talking about my journey through newborn stage as a new mom. So today I'll be sharing some of the challenges that I faced during the newborn stage, and one of the things that I learned throughout the journey is support systems are definitely needed. So if you're somebody who supports new moms, I'm thankful to you. So when I first found out I was pregnant, especially finding out it was a boy, I was more than excited. I couldn't wait for him to be here. Navigating the pregnancy, I was doing a lot of research and watching some fun videos, reading different books about pregnancy and the different symptoms of pregnancy, what each week was bringing, all of the different changes. And my assumption throughout the process that once he was born, I wouldn't be doing so much research, figuring out what week by week things were changing, because I have experience in early childhood, early child development. I worked with kids as young as 3 months old. I taught parent-child classes where I was instructing parents on child development. We did start 3 to 4 months old and it went up until 12 years old. So I was telling them activities to do with their kids. So I figured I'll learn about pregnancy and do a lot of research now, but I wasn't researching a lot about the newborn stage or about what it would be like once he was here. I saw videos about routines with babies and I was like, I don't need to watch those. I've got everything down, but I'll find out later on in the story how much I didn't know. And one of the biggest challenges we faced was when we saw our pediatrician. When we got home from the hospital, I knew I had to call the pediatrician and get an appointment set up. I first of all was surprised how quickly they scheduled that visit. I called the day we got home and they scheduled the visit for the next day, which is their normal practice, but I was surprised. I thought schedule a doctor's appointment at least a week out, and that's what we did during prenatal appointments. They were always at least a week apart, so I was really surprised that we were going in the next day. But we went in, they checked different things, all was good, except they were concerned about his weight. They said he'd lost a little bit after 24 hours, which is normal, but they hadn't seen him gain what they'd wanted him to after that. But we scheduled to come back again. I think it was only 2 days later. We'd actually have to keep scheduling over and over again to come every 2 days, every 3 days that they were open to check his weight again. So seeking solutions to try to help with his weight gain, pediatrician recommended supplementing with formula so that they would know exactly how much he was eating, and that would be an easy way for him to gain some weight. I wasn't on board with that. Even though they gave us some samples to take home, I really wanted just to breastfeed, and I knew that that was going to give him the nutrition he needed. So I went to a lactation consultant that they'd recommended as well. There we did a weighted feed, which I wasn't prepared for how that would go either. I was surprised. We had to come when he was hungry, even though he was a bit fuzzy from being hungry. And yeah, I was feeding him every 2 hours because that's what the doctors had recommended in the hospital. And actually when we were in the hospital, all that we did for feeding him was expressing colostrum in droplets, feeding that to him on our fingers. We didn't really have a plan for success after that. When we were home those first couple days, we were expressing colostrum into a syringe and either feeding it to him through like a bottle or a syringe. So he did have his first bottle really early on, but like emotionally knowing that he wasn't gaining weight was really stressful. But then I also knew that the stress wasn't helping the milk supply, so I was trying to keep calm and relax. But I was scheduling all these appointments, and going out to an appointment was vastly different with a baby than during pregnancy. During pregnancy, I get in the car, zip over to the appointment, drive early, hang out, didn't need to bring anything other than maybe a water bottle, keys, wallet, all good. But now with the baby, we've got the whole diaper bag, the diapers, the wipes. At some point, we end up bringing pumps with us, bottles, clothes, extra clothes for me. It was a lot that even just leaving the house, making sure that he was in a fresh diaper, strapped into his car seat, which if you saw my other video was a whole thing. Getting to appointments on time was tough. And these doctor's appointments, instead of being very close by, the lactation consultant was all the way on the other side of the city. So it was a far drive. Stress of knowing, okay, well, is he gonna get hungry on the way there? Should I feed him before we get there, when we get there? So it was a whole thing. I didn't know what I was doing. We just had all kinds of appointments and different recommendations from different people. So the lactation consultant Did a weighted feed with him and thought he could be eating a little bit more. She didn't find any problems with his latch or any tongue tie. So we really weren't sure. And looking back, I think maybe it was just, maybe his mouth was just really small and didn't have a strong enough suck to get the milk that he needed. I really don't know still. And another problem we had was the nipple pain. So it had ended up getting cracked and hurting, and every time I was feeding him, it was like toe curling pain. Any pain while breastfeeding is not normal. I would be crying, trying to feed him, and it was like an emotional battle because I was like, I need to feed him, he needs to gain weight, trying, but it hurts so much and I just don't feel like I can go on. How am I gonna heal? I ended up getting a fever. Yeah, so the lactation consultant said, well, I could prescribe all-purpose nipple ointment, and I was like, let's try that. I went over to a compounding pharmacy to get that right away. It was expensive, but worth every penny. That did heal up all of the pain that I was having. It ruined a couple nursing bras, but that helped with the sore nipples. And really, once we sorted that out, it was much better going from there. The lactation consultant also recommended increasing the demand of milk by feeding him while pumping at the same time, what she called parallel pumping. So one side was a pump, one side was the baby, so my body would think there were two babies to feed. It would amp up the milk production. And then I would immediately after feeding him, give him the pumped milk. I was able to keep that up for all of 1 week. It was a weird feeling that I got using a pump. I felt like I was sort of a robot expressing milk or something. It didn't feel right to me, so I really didn't want to keep up with it. And I didn't know really the effects of supplementing with formula, other than I didn't like the ingredients in it. I didn't know the effect that it would have on milk supply or the benefits that I would be losing out by doing that. So I found a European-based formula. First ingredient was milk instead of corn syrup solids. And I said, okay, well, I feel better about that. So other challenges were feeding at nighttime, and when we were using the bottle, it seemed easier because then my husband could help give him one of the bottles. Even though if I heard him crying, I was gonna get up anyway and not be able to sleep. So we were both losing sleep. Wasn't really working out very well. I read a few books on sleep and sleep in breastfeeding, and one that I really liked was Breast Sleeping. It's called Safe Infant Sleep. It went over all of the basics of safe bed sharing and the benefits and the history of it. And when books can go into the history of something, no matter what the topic, and it is really validating as well. We started doing that. That's how I really learned about, breast milk supply, and I slept so much better. I was waking up still to feed him, but I wasn't fully waking up. I was getting way more sleep. He seemed a lot happier. He was gaining more weight. And then over time, we decreased the supplementation of formula. At one point, we even had donated breast milk, my preference over the formula anyway. Still though, it was a little bit difficult to go out because you didn't know if you would need a bottle. And then I still did have a lot of anxiety and worries about safe sleep. I just felt like during pregnancy, it was hammered in about baby sleeping in a separate sleep space, always in the crib or on bassinet or pack and play, and that was it. So doing something different than that, I was always really like hyper vigilant and worried, and I was like, is this gonna be okay? But one thing that helped me feel better was he was a lot bigger at that point, and he was near 6 months old. So that helped, and then just doing it more and more over time, along with knowing the fundamentals behind it, as well as, so looking back over the progression and evolution of our feeding journey, dealing with the nipple pain at the beginning, moving on to recommendations for supplementation and helping to get his weight up, changing the way we were feeding, schedules and sleep, but most of all, going to different support groups. And I learned a lesson on resilience and perseverance. I was ready maybe 2 weeks in to give up on breastfeeding, and over time I had different struggles with it, but one mantra was don't give up on a bad day. So mothers, parents, if you're going through struggles with feeding or feelings about supplementing or worries about weight gain, whatever it is, or even just challenges with being adaptable or resilient, just know that you're not alone in the journey of parenthood, and I encourage you to find support. Reading the books that I recommended and finding within those books other books and audiobooks, of course, or other resources that are going to help validate and give you some support in the journey. And so now, as my son's approaching 1 year old, he is a fantastic eater, and I do accredit it to 1, studying nutrition during pregnancy, and number 2, to his eating breast milk, especially donated breast milk, probably helped him to expose him even to things that I didn't eat. You can check out my video on baby-led weaning for that. There's also a good book to read on it too about the essentials of baby-led weaning. And just him being able to explore foods the way that they are instead of pureed and smashed up, I think is really helpful for him. So in conclusion, if you've supported me in this journey, thank you. And viewers, please share your experiences down below. I know you may have gone through other struggles in the newborn phase or struggles with feeding, or even just things that surprised you. Let me know those in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Like the video and check back for more content on parenting. Bye-bye.